Hello and welcome back. This is Elle with the Law of One Spiritual Advice podcast. I am back to speak more about the Law of One. So today I have a raw quote from session 65.12. I have my website, the oneinfinitecreator.com, where you can go to and find shortcuts to all of this type of information. And I'm going to read this quote and then comment on it. Today's topics, I suppose, is mostly going to be about infinite possibilities and the state of the world. And, basically that. So let's begin. Ra, 65.12, quote, "Although you have many, many items which cause distress and thus offer seeking and service opportunities, there is always one container in that store of peace, love, light, and joy. This vortex may be very small, but to turn one's back upon it is to forget the infinite possibilities of the present moment. Could your planet polarize towards harmony in one fine, strong moment of inspiration? Yes, my friends, it's not probable, but it is ever possible." End of quote. Ra. Right, so such a nice quote. Shows you the importance of not losing hope. Hope is a very strong thing, which, going a little further with it, you may call it faith. So what they're talking about in this one here is sort of like a grocery store. Let's say you have a grocery store, you walk in, you see all the containers on the aisle. 99% of the containers are filled with darkness and garbage and enslavement and bellicosity, or as they say, and just distortion, right? And then there's going to be one of those containers on the shelf which is filled with love, light, and joy and peace. Now that sounds nice. So people make fun of spiritual folk for focusing on the good things all the time. I like to be a realist, so I'll admit the state of the world that it's in, but at the same time I'm also going to be somewhat faithful in the fact that, hey, who knows, there's a possibility that all of us could polarize in one strong, fine moment of inspiration. And then I kind of want to speak about the dynamics of that situation right now that we find ourselves in this world, where there is a lot of darkness and enslavement, voluntary enslavement, you might say, just a lot of governments around the world with the various lockdowns and other policies that they're trying to implement, which is always generally how most governments do it, is they sacrifice your liberty for safety. It's always about safety this, safety that, safety this, but while they're saying that, they're taking your rights and freedoms away. And, I won't make any specific comments, try not to go too far into it, but it's just worth noting that if you've pondered free will at all, you can see around you that this is very much a thing of the service to self entities on this planet who want to polarize in the service to self polarity. So they are here to enslave us, and they do that by generally speaking, getting us to voluntarily enslave us. Why force somebody to do something when you can trick them into it? And I think that's really the position that most of us find ourselves in on this planet Earth. So it's worth asking. A lot of people will ask, who are they that you're speaking of when you're talking about those who are trying to control the world? And you can find out names. There are some out there. I'm not going to name anything, but there's definitely names you can get. However, I feel that's less important. It's more important about you recognizing the control mechanisms that do exist in your life and just doing your best to either avoid them, protest them, just not complying with them, whatever that means to you. But when you see the control mechanisms and the enslavement coming towards you and trying to get you to just go along with all of it like it's no big deal, you'd do well to second guess those things. I believe what we see going on right now on this earth is you have a small group of people, the classic pyramid style. There's people at the top, and they are the ones in control, and they're the ones dictating things, which go down to the lower groups. Those who are in the lower groups only know what they need to know, etc. A lot of people just think, it seems a little super conspiratorial. How could everybody be in on this? It's not really like that. It's more just subtleties. People know what they need to know, and it's not like there's like a plan that they talk about of enslaving people. It's more just like, hey, this is what we're going to do for the good of everybody, and it's good whether you like it or not. Those are sort of the ideas that get peddled around, and then they just go farther and until you find them encroaching on your life. So you being somebody at the sort of bottom of the pyramid, not being in control, what is it that you can do? Well, you're dealing with the service to self polarity entities, which is not something that you particularly want to be in resonance with, assuming that you're listening to this because you are polarizing in the service to others polarity. So the dynamic that I see in play right now is, you see we're towards the end of our third density cycle, and it's coming to a close is what I hear, in which case that is pushing all of us to make that final choice to graduate in either service to others or service to self. So these service to self entities that are on our planet right now are very much interested in enslaving us, because that's the name of their game. That the more they control, the more that they get to move on. Basically, they have 99% of things within their control. They get to graduate from this density in the service to self perspective, versus the others who are in the service to others polarity. You want to be around 51% in service to others. That sounds ridiculous, but what is it in like intention, action, thought, deed, whatever you may think. Both of those are equally as hard to achieve. However, you have this service to self polarity trying to enslave you, and so I see them pushing on as we come closer to harvest. I think it is obviously terrible. We don't want to be enslaved, but it's maybe a good thing too, in that there's people who are just lightly sleeping, and the more that they're pushed towards enslavement, the less they can ignore it, the less they can just keep going on with their day. Well, I'll worry about that, when it's knocking on my front door. Well, I mean, it's knocking on your front door right now. If it hasn't already, it will be soon. And you don't really get to sit around and not make a choice, is what I feel is happening right now. You're being forced to either, go along with it and voluntarily enslave ourselves, or you get to decide, this is not for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, but no thank you. I seek to serve others, which means I seek to accept. I seek to respect free will. I respect the free will of you to make your decisions, and that's fine. And you go do your thing, and I'm going to go do my thing. So as the service to self pushes on the service to others people, or the light sleepers, I feel that it's going to only push them to polarize more in the positive sense, in that they realize more of what they had or what's going to be gone shortly, and they're very grateful for it, and so they protect it, and they have hope that this won't just end in complete darkness. This will end in something positive for everybody. So that's what I hope. I hope that as things get worse, they're secretly getting better. If you're listening to the news, you're just listening to obviously all the negative things. They're not going to tell you many positive things, but there's positive things going on in communities and within the hearts of all of us, which we need to recognize. And lastly, I would just note the sort of metaphor of, I'm sitting here right now and it's been pouring rain for a couple of days, and so I could just sort of make a metaphor in that, it seems that it's raining and dark, but I know behind those clouds up there somewhere, even though I can't see it, there is a sun, and that sun is filled with warmth and love and light, and the clouds will break one day and that sun will come through and the light of truth will shine. So hope that gives you some hope and some clarity in these dark times. And yeah, I don't really know what else to tell you guys or to tell anybody, because this is pretty crazy times that we're in right now. But just like I always say, be kind to yourself. Just seek to do good, rest. What more can you do, right? Do your best. All right. I love you guys. Have a good day.